cold night in Atlanta, and inside the State Farm Arena, Trae Young is having one of the best games in his young career. 45 points and 14 assists over the Washington Wizards. Young looks up towards the Raptors several times throughout the game. This is the first game Trae Young has played since Kobe's death. He was one of Trae Young's idols. He says, "One of the last conversations we had, he said how proud he was of me and how he wants me to continue to be a role model for kids growing up and for Gigi." Gigi was one of Young's biggest fans. Washington coach Scott Brooks would say, "Trae, he's a problem. He's a handful. He's an all-star for all the right reasons." Well, we have some thoughts on that. Welcome to Takes in Fuego. Today we will be looking at Trae Young and if he is the next Stephen Curry or the next Stephon Marbury. Some people say that Trae Young is as inefficient as the government. To a certain extent, this is true. Among qualified players, he is 4th in usage rate, and his percentages aren't great. The league average effective field goal percentage is 52.8%. Trae Young is at 51.9%, below the league average. A couple points where I think this is unfair though. His effective field goal percentage jumped nearly 4% since his rookie year. I don't think it will continue at that rate, but you have to imagine Trae Young will continue to improve given that huge jump. The main issue I have with the inefficiency argument though, most of the Hawks' leading scorers in the 1920 season shot right around 40%. Considering the league average is 46, that's not great. Also, the Hawks ranked dead last in three-point percentage in the NBA despite Trae Young shooting in the volume he does. Asking these players, who are clearly not great shooters, to take on a bigger workload would be altogether inefficient, forcing Trae Young into a large number of shots and perhaps a higher number of bad looks. Trae Young takes a lot of shit for his defense, but he has made improvements. He improved his steals per game by 0.2 since last year and is 18th in charges per game in the NBA this season, a skill he did not have when he came into the league. In fact, he has more than quadrupled the number of charges he draws per game since his rookie season. Even so, these improvements have barely helped at all. Trae Young's defensive rating is 122.3, which is 9th worst in the league. Two of his teammates, Hunter and Teague, are below him. And remember that game where Trae Young scored 45 points and 12 assists? Well, that was against the Washington Wizards. Of the 6 NBA players with the worst defensive rating, the Washington Wizards have 5.
What?
And actually, according to defensive rating, Bradley Beal was the worst defender in the league last year. I fully expect Trae Young to improve on both ends of the floor from where he is at now, considering he has already improved in his sophomore season. The unfortunate reality though, is he will always be compared to Luka Doncic, the MVP candidate in his second year, Luka Doncic. Maybe the Hawks thought there was no discernible difference in the ceiling of Trae and Luka, in which case that extra draft pick is just a bonus. I always thought Luka had the higher ceiling though, so I would have taken him every time. At least how it stands so far, Luka was 10th in win shares last year and Trae Young was 27th. Who would you rather have, Luka or Trae Young and Cam Reddish? I personally have my answer 2 years in. Alright, enough of these games. Here's the real problem with Trae Young, and it's not like it's a unique problem for him. This is a problem I see with Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, and other stars in the league. I'm trying to imagine what a true contender with Young as the primary star would look like. Although he brings a lot of good things to the table, there are a certain level of needs that the team would need to make up for. Young would be most efficient with a high number of catch and shoot guys around him who can space the floor and allow him to work. Defensively, I would say Young currently stands at about a D-. I don't think that's where he will peak, but let's say he reaches like a C level in his final form. Even at that, he is going to be targeted in the playoffs over and over again. So he is going to need a lot of defensive help on a serious contender. I think it's an unfair comparison, as I'd have a hard time seeing Young as good as this guy on either end of the court, but let's say we follow the Stephen Curry model. Saying someone will be as good as Stephen Curry on offense and as a shooter is a pretty outrageous statement.
Yeah!
But with that said, if anyone in the NBA can get there, it's probably Trae Young. If Young gets to Curry's level on defense, he would need to improve his defensive rating, by about 15 points. I'd have an even harder time seeing he gets to this level, but let's say he even does that. As we saw play out, Curry needed some help in certain areas, having another high-level shooter to stretch the floor like Clay, and someone to pick up some of the defensive slack when he's targeted in the playoffs like Draymond, Clay, and Iguodala, who made the core of those Warriors teams would be the recipe for success. This is going to be hard to duplicate, as the Warriors were one of the only hand-drafted super teams in league history. Oh, and adding Kevin Durant would help also, but that would probably help every NBA team. With the Hawks' current standing, they don't really have another one of those pieces at all. I know they're young and experienced and growing as athletes, but just looking at the landscape, unless the Hawks make some serious free agent signings as Young enters his prime, I'm not sure how they get there. And the main question is Trae Young able to be the best player on the title team despite his deficiencies? While obviously too early to answer, I have my doubts. This year, Trae Young got the news in his hometown of Norman, Oklahoma. 22 teams have been invited to resume play this season. The Atlanta Hawks were not one of them. When will they be in the postseason? Trae Young, in time, will tell. To see how Trae Young is changing the NBA forever, check out the video on the screen and be sure to subscribe, or I will challenge Trae Young to have a 3-point contest with you.